My sister and I are twins, but our personalities are complete opposites. My sister is gentle and elegant, exceptionally knowledgeable, and the epitome of a noble young lady from a wealthy family. I, on the other hand, am rebellious and bold, always chasing excitement, which gives my parents headaches. In my previous life, my sister married the heir to a billionaire family. I, however, married an uneducated nouveau riche. Yet, despite her seemingly perfect marriage, my sister developed depression after getting married and eventually chose to take her own life. The nouveau riche and I couldn't stand each other, and our days were filled with constant chaos and turmoil. Upon hearing the news of my sister's suicide, I sped to the hospital but ended up in a car accident. When I opened my eyes again, both my sister and I had been reborn just before our weddings. After exchanging a glance, I said to her, "How about we swap?" My sister nodded emphatically, "Swap." They say there's a mysterious telepathic connection between twins. Such is the case between my sister and me. The moment my sister committed suicide, a sudden sharp pain pierced my heart, and an overwhelming sense of despair and loneliness surged within me. In less than 5 minutes, I received a call from our parents. Something terrible had indeed happened to my sister. She had slit her wrists in the bathroom due to depression, taking her own life. Upon hearing the news, my face turned pale as I rushed to the garage, speeding recklessly toward the hospital. But on the Cross River Bridge, I got into an accident. My car crashed through the guardrail and plunged into the river below. Yet when I opened my eyes again, there stood my sister, perfectly unharmed before me. At this moment, Dad was saying excitedly, "I never expected the Montgomery family would choose to form a marriage alliance with our family. Lara, you've really made me proud." Mom also chimed in excitedly with a coquettish tone, "Now do you understand the benefits of having Lara study more?" Mrs. Montgomery said they chose her as their daughter-in-law precisely because they admired her refined manners and high education level, which would ensure good genes for the next generation. Otherwise, such good fortune would never have come to our family. Dad scratched his nose sheepishly. "I was just worried she might become book-smart but street-dumb." Then Mom continued, "But since Lara's marriage is settled, the engagement with the Rutherford family will have to go to Lynn." With that, both of them turned to look at me. Mother then said gently, "Lynn, although the Rutherford family isn't comparable to the Montgomery family, their net worth is still in the billions. This marriage was arranged when you two were still in the womb, it can't be taken back. Don't think your father and I are being unfair." Just as I was about to nod in agreement, my sister suddenly turned pale and shook her head desperately. "No, I don't want to marry him." At that moment, my heart sank. Unlike me, my sister had an extremely strong sense of family duty and responsibility. In our past life, when she learned the Montgomery family had chosen her as their daughter-in-law, she had agreed without hesitation. But this time, she refused. Instantly, I had a suspicion. Unless, my sister had also been reborn, just like me. Thinking this, I quickly reassured our parents, "It's normal for sister to resist since she hasn't even met him yet. Mom, Dad, I'll talk to her properly." With that, I hurriedly pulled my sister upstairs. After locking the door securely, I immediately grasped her hands and asked excitedly, "Sister, you've been reborn too, haven't you?" My sister's eyes widened at my words. "Little sister, you too?" I nodded heavily, then gritted my teeth and asked my sister, "Sister, did that Leon abuse you or cheat on you? Otherwise, why would you suddenly commit suicide when everything seemed fine?" Knowing my sister's temperament, even if she suffered hardships or grievances in the Montgomery family, she would endure it for the sake of our family. The Montgomery family claimed she committed suicide due to depression. But my sister, before getting married, was clearly a gentle and sensible girl. Where did this depression come from? It must be because Leon treated her poorly that she became depressed. What I didn't expect, however, was that my sister would shake her head with a somber expression at this moment. Neither. I just felt that life wasn't worth living, so I lost my will to go on for a moment. My eyes widened in an instant. How could that be? My sister let out a bitter laugh. "It's true. Leon is a workaholic. Out of 365 days a year, he spends 360 working outside. I'm not embarrassed to tell you, even our wedding night, he spent at the office. In 3 years of marriage, we've never shared a bed. Leon's mother keeps pressuring us to have children. I had to swallow my pride and approach him, but he wouldn't even look at me, just rushed off to another meeting. At this point, tears fell from my sister's eyes. I always thought I was quite outstanding, but in front of Leon, my self-confidence was truly shattered to pieces. Hearing this, I couldn't help but clench my fists until they cracked. To abandon a wife as beautiful as you and instead bury himself in work all day without coming home, I'd bet 9 times out of 10 this Leon is gay. Marrying you was just to hide his sexual orientation, I said bitterly. But my sister shook her head at this. That's not the case. In fact, he's never shortchanged me materially. Every time he travels for work, he brings me extremely expensive gifts. And for our wedding anniversary and my birthday every year, he transfers me at least $1 billion in spending money. At this point, my sister lowered her head and choked back sobs, saying, I know you might all think I'm being ungrateful when I say this, he's already so generous to me, what more could I possibly ask for? My heart ached for her, and I immediately hugged her tightly. Sister, I understand completely. You didn't marry him for his money, you just wanted someone who truly understands you. An annual allowance of at least $2 billion in pocket money, who wouldn't envy or resent my sister once they found out? If this were posted online, countless people would surely criticize her for being too greedy. So what if my husband doesn't come home? So what if my husband won't touch me? A life with wealth, leisure, and no need to deal with a husband, it's practically heavenly. The only downside is that my husband doesn't love me. Other than that, there are no flaws. But my sister and I are different. Since childhood, she's been someone with heavier emotional needs, valuing family deeply. For her family's happiness, she could silently give up the things she truly loved. If we weren't twin sisters, and if I couldn't occasionally sense a flicker of her true emotions, I might have been fooled by her act too. No matter how generous Leon is with material things, it could never make her happy. What my sister needs to be fulfilled was never material desires, it was emotional fulfillment. Of course, I didn't believe my sister would develop depression over someone like Leon. According to her, she barely had any interaction with Leon, so how could she become depressed over a man she hardly had any connection with? Narrowing my eyes, I looked at my sister and asked, does Leon's mother often pressure you about having children? My sister's face paled. Then with reddened eyes, she nodded. Seeing this, how could I not understand the situation? Leon was rarely at home, so the person who spent the most time with his sister was naturally his mother. I heard Leon also had a younger sister with a rather spoiled personality. Now it seems clear that my sister's depression in her past life must have been connected to them. Thinking back to Adrian, the nouveau riche with a prearranged marriage I was wedded to in my previous life, who constantly complained I acted like a shrew, lacking any of the grace and gentleness expected of a wealthy heiress, my eyes suddenly lit up. Sister, what if we switch? Although Adrian had a somewhat fiery temper and a rough, intimidating appearance, in my past life no matter how fiercely we quarreled, he never laid a hand on me. At worst, he'd call me a shrew before storming out and slamming the door. After marriage, he repeatedly mentioned that precisely because he lacked education, he wanted to marry a cultured, well-bred heiress. He had assumed that as a wealthy heiress, I would naturally be elegant and refined. Little did he expect I could out-party even him, a man. As Adrian put it, my sister fit his requirements perfectly. As for the Montgomery family? In our past life, they drove my sister to depression and death. If I don't turn their household upside down in revenge, I'd be unworthy of my title as the she-devil of chaos. Upon hearing my words, my sister nodded without hesitation. Let's swap. After the marriage was settled, the Montgomery family promptly and sincerely sent over $2 billion in betrothal gifts along with a pile of property deeds for cars and houses. Just like in my previous life, our parents didn't keep these items. Instead, they gave 10% of their company's shares as a dowry, fearing my sister might be looked down upon when entering the Montgomery family. When it came to selecting wedding dresses and finalizing wedding arrangements, Leon, the groom-to-be, never showed up. When Leon's mother met my sister, she merely said Leon was too busy and asked for her understanding. Leon's sister even said with her nose in the air, "My brother manages such a big company and is usually very busy. How could he have time to deal with such trivial matters?" I sneered inwardly. If marriage is trivial, then how many truly significant events are there in a person's life? But it's just as well that Leon isn't coming. If he were to show up now and notice the differences between my sister and me, how would we be able to swap partners later? After we get the marriage certificate, I'll show you all what a virtuous wife and loving mother really looks like. After being busy for more than half a month, the wedding was finally on the agenda. The day before the wedding, my brother-in-law Leon, whom I had only met a few times in my previous life, finally showed up with a pile of prenuptial agreements and spared half an hour to go with me to get our marriage certificate. Throughout the process, he barely said a word, keeping his head down reading documents, while everything else was handled by his lawyer. After we got the marriage certificate, he looked at me indifferently and said, "I have work to attend to at the company. The driver will take you home." With that, without waiting for my response, he lifted his foot to walk toward the Bentley parked not far away. Seeing this, I couldn't help but sneer inwardly. No wonder my sister said he had crushed her confidence to the point she had none left. Who could endure being repeatedly ignored like heir by their own husband? But I didn't make a scene with Leon. Instead, holding the marriage certificate, I blew him a kiss and cooed in a deliberately sweet voice, "Got it, hubby. Love you." Leon's steps faltered instantly. His secretaries nearly tripped over their own feet in shock. I blinked innocently, then walked toward the motorcycle parked nearby. After starting the bike, I deliberately circled around Leon and his friends with a roguish air before stopping in front of him and waving. "Bye-bye, hubby." With that, I accelerated away under Leon's gaze. As for how he'd react? Who cares? I'm not Lara, willing to compromise myself for others' feelings. If someone makes me unhappy, then nobody gets to be happy. After getting the marriage certificate with Leon, I went on a wild shopping spree with the betrothal gifts he gave me. I love racing cars, but unfortunately, my family never allowed me to engage in such dangerous activities and always restricted my allowance. So those ultra-cool racing cars worth tens of millions were completely out of my reach. But now, that's no longer an issue. Pulling out the black card Leon gave me, I directly bought a $30 million Ferrari race car. Then I swiped again for a $50 million Bugatti Veyron, followed by a $20 million Lamborghini. After indulging myself with 5 classic racing cars, it was only right to treat my family too. So I got my sister a Maserati and bought my dad that Bentley he could never bring himself to splurge on. Oh, by the way, my mom's birthday is next month. Can't let this gift opportunity pass, right? A full set of emeralds worth over $100 million? Buy it. A top-tier luxury mattress worth tens of millions? Buy it. And just like that, within a single day, I managed to swipe my card for a staggering $1 billion. My extravagant spending of over $100 million quickly spread through high society. In just one day, I gained another nickname, the profligate heiress. That same day, I received a call from Leon's mother. "Lara, I heard you bought a lot of sports cars today? Our home already has plenty of luxury vehicles, you can drive whichever you like." "There's absolutely no need to buy more cars," she said with a chilling tone. Before I could respond, Leon's younger sister Stella was already shouting furiously, "Lara, how can you be so shameless? Spending our family's money like this before even officially joining us? I never expected you'd turn out to be such a gold-digging bitch." Hearing their words, I feigned surprise and said, "But once the betrothal gifts are given to me, shouldn't I be free to use them as I please? Besides, I'm spending the money my husband gave me, not yours. Why are you so eager to question me about it? Or is Leon the one who told you to scold me like this? If that's the case, then I really would look down on him. If he can't afford the bride price, then he simply shouldn't get married." I spent the bride price he gave me, and now he complains about me spending recklessly. With your family's hundreds of billions in assets, you scold me just for spending 10 billion? I think we might as well call off the wedding. Tomorrow, I'll divorce Leon. On the other end of the phone, Stella was absolutely furious after hearing my words. Lara, you shameless bitch. You squandered my brother's money and now you're turning the tables on us. Hearing Stella's words, I let out a cold laugh and hung up the phone directly. Then, I immediately dialed Leon's private number to complain. After a short while, the call connected. I directly played the recordings of his mother and Stella for him. After the video finished playing, I turned coldly to Leon and said, Leon, the betrothal gifts your family gave me, they're not just for show, are they? You're not expecting me to return them after we're married, right? Or are you saying the money from your family is only for me to keep in the bank, not to spend? After my sharp retort, Leon paused before responding, I'll talk to my mother and younger sister. The money we gave you is yours, you can spend it however you like. Hearing this, I snorted and said, at least you know what's proper. Let me make this clear, now that I'm your wife, it's only right for you, as my husband, to spend money on me. If you dare earn money without spending it on me, or complain about me spending too much, we might as well break up early. And as for your mom and your sister, I'll let it slide this time, but if they dare act arrogantly in front of me again, I won't be polite with them. After a long silence, Leon finally said in a deep voice, I understand. There won't be a next time. All right then, I'm hanging up. With that, I promptly ended the call. Yet I couldn't help feeling surprised. I had expected Leon to get angry over my excessive spending, but he genuinely didn't seem to mind. It seems in my past life, he truly never treated my sister poorly when it came to material comforts. I don't know what Leon said to his mother and Stella, but the next day, they actually came to apologize to me. Leon's mother wore an uncomfortable expression, while Stella's face was completely etched with reluctance. But despite her unwillingness, she still lowered her head and gritted her teeth to say, Sister-in-law, I'm sorry. I shouldn't have spoken to you like that yesterday. Please forgive me this once. Seeing Stella's face full of suppressed frustration, I felt utterly satisfied. Indeed, one must learn to speak up in life. Only someone with my sister's overly considerate nature would let herself be bullied by this mother-daughter pair and put up with them. But I'm not about to indulge them. For Leon's sake, I'll let it slide this time. But if there's a next time, I won't be so polite. Leon's mother immediately beamed at me. Stella is still young, she's already realized her mistake. I promise there won't be a next time, dear. I replied bluntly, the betrothal gifts haven't even been given yet, so calling yourself mother is a bit premature, don't you think? As a noble woman from an elite family who understands etiquette best, you really shouldn't do this in the future. Leon's mother's expression darkened. Stella even exploded with anger, you and my brother are already registered. What's wrong with Mom asking you to change how you address her? I raised my chin calmly, you said it yourself, my brother and I are just registered. Since we haven't held the wedding yet and I haven't formally changed how I address her, she shouldn't call herself my mom now. Huh. This mother and daughter pair, in our past life, they tormented my sister so badly that she fell into depression. In this lifetime, I won't let them off easily. Weren't they the ones who loved nitpicking and emotionally manipulating my sister in our past life? Well, this time, I'll make sure they get a taste of their own medicine, frustration and misery. After the mother and daughter pair left, my sister looked at me nervously. Lynn, won't Leon hold this against you? I replied nonchalantly, if he has opinions, let him keep them to himself. Even if we divorce now, I won't be at a loss, what's there to fear? Leon is indeed generous materially to his partner. Though the prenuptial agreement didn't grant me shares in the Montgomery family's assets, if we were to divorce, Leon alone would have to compensate me $5 billion, plus luxury mansions, jewelry, and the like. In short, if this marriage ends, I'd be the one coming out ahead. After all, I'm not like my sister, longing for a normal married life. For me, my own happiness is what matters most. But what I didn't expect was that after making that call to Leon, the guy actually found time to accompany me for wedding dress fittings. Seeing Leon appear, I dramatically rushed forward and threw myself into his arms. "Darling, how do you have time to accompany me for dress fittings today? I'm so happy." I thought for sure Leon would push me away. After all, he's a workaholic who shows no interest in women. To my surprise, he actually reached out and grasped my waist. Then lowering his head with a deep voice, he said, "Just happened to have some free time, so I came to accompany you." On the surface I appeared delighted, but inwardly I was cursing him to hell and back. So when a man says he's too busy, it's all complete bullshit. The moment I spent that billion, didn't he suddenly find time to spare? Truly, only when the cost is high enough do these worthless men learn to cherish what they have. During the wedding dress fitting, I kept deliberately flirting with Leon. "Do I look beautiful, darling?" Leon's gaze seemed to darken slightly. After a pause, he finally responded in a deep voice, "Beautiful. Hee, I think so too. It's not that I'm conceited, but my sister and I are genuinely stunning. It's just that I have a more rebellious personality, usually opting for a bold, edgy makeup look that gives off a wilder vibe." After trying on the wedding dress, I was about to wave goodbye to Leon when he unexpectedly said, "Get in, I'll drive you home." I couldn't help but look at him in surprise. "Don't you need to go to work?" Leon politely opened the car door for me, saying, "I still have time to take you home." I couldn't help cursing this dog of a man in my heart again. But with a pleasantly surprised expression, I got into the car. Because I knew the more time, money, and effort a man invests, the more he'll care. When Leon brought me home, my sister was utterly shocked. Fortunately, Leon left immediately after dropping me at the door. Only after he left did my sister turn to me with a bitter smile, saying, "It seems he really doesn't like me after all, that's why he's always been so cold to me." Hearing this, I quickly grabbed my sister's hand. "Sis, that only proves he has no taste and isn't worthy of you. That's why I say men are such fools." The more I spent lavishly, the more he became interested in me. Truth be told, in our past life he just took advantage of your kindness and meekness. When you join the Rutherford family later, if Adrian dares to treat you poorly, you mustn't endure it silently again. Sacrificing yourself for others isn't worth it. My sister is perfect in every way, except she's too accustomed to sacrificing herself and always putting others first. I can't let her continue like this. After a moment's hesitation, my sister nodded. "I'll try my best." Since the Rutherford family was also eager for Adrian to get married, as soon as they heard about my marriage alliance with Leon, they quickly scheduled the wedding. However, the Rutherford family was concerned that holding simultaneous weddings might make their arrangements appear inferior to the Montgomery families. Therefore, my sister and Adrian's wedding was set for the second month after mine with Leon. In my previous life, I had met Adrian a few times before our wedding. But back then, my parents were worried that my usual behavior might affect the alliance between our families, so they constantly reminded me to change my usual dressing style. Fortunately, Adrian was just a straightforward guy. With just a slightly more ladylike makeup look, I had him stumbling over his words and too shy to even speak to me. Every time we fought after that, as long as I wore a demure makeup look the next day, he could never raise his voice at me again. All he could do was huff angrily and mutter, "Your temper doesn't match that innocent face of yours at all, humph." But this time it was my sister who was dating Adrian. By nature, my sister was an extremely gentle woman, the very embodiment of Adrian's ideal goddess. After a few dates, my sister's face gradually regained its confidence and smile. As for Adrian, he became even more attentive, frequently taking the initiative to ask her out. His gaze toward my sister was not only filled with admiration but also deep reverence. Heaven knows how physically uncomfortable it made me to see such a rough man giving her starry-eyed looks. In my past life, I'd never seen Adrian being so attentive. But since his target was my sister, I felt at ease. Though Adrian may look rough around the edges, in all fairness, his character is actually decent. Soon it was the day of my and Leon's wedding. Perhaps to put me in my place, when the MC mentioned the tradition of addressing parents, Leon's mother meaningfully handed me an extra-large red envelope. With a smile, I reached out to take it and cheerfully called out Mom. But Leon's mother didn't respond to me, pretending not to hear as she sat there, deliberately trying to embarrass me. Seeing this, I couldn't help but laugh. Then I snatched the microphone from the stunned-looking MC and said, "Seems Mom's getting old, her hearing must be failing, that's why she didn't hear me." "No problem, I'll just say it again." With that, I leaned into the microphone and shouted at the top of my lungs in front of my mother-in-law's scowling face, "MOM." Instantly, my thunderous cry of Mom reverberated throughout the entire wedding hall. The venue fell into complete silence. All eyes turned toward the stage. My mother-in-law's face instantly flushed red with anger. Trembling, she glared at Leon. "Leon, this is the wonderful wife you married, she just spent $1 billion right after the wedding, and now she's humiliating me in front of all these people." Hearing this, I couldn't help but sneer, casting a sidelong glance at Leon. If he dared to take her side today, I'd make sure his family lost all remaining dignity before this crowd. To my surprise, Leon simply looked calmly at his mother and said, "Mom, wasn't she personally chosen by you as my bride?" The mother-in-law never expected to be betrayed by her own son and was so angry she clutched her chest. After a long while, she finally managed to squeeze out a sentence, but she wasn't like this before marriage. She had specifically chosen a gentle and easily controlled wealthy heiress. But who would have thought that the other person would change so drastically after marriage? Hearing my mother-in-law's words, I looked at her with an innocent expression. "Mom, we weren't close before marriage, so how would you know what I was like? But it's okay, from now on, we're family. You'll have plenty of chances to get to know the kind of person I am." My mother-in-law immediately pointed a trembling finger at me. Leon gave me a deep look, then turned to his mother and said, "Mom, you ignored my wife again just now. Does that mean you don't want her to call you Mom anymore?" I couldn't help but stare at Leon in surprise. Damn, is this guy really his mother's biological son? He's actually taking his wife's side? Mother-in-law was absolutely furious at Leon's words. Fine. Fine. Just married and already forgetting your mother for your wife, taking the outsider's side. A daughter-in-law like this is too much for me to handle. With that, supported by Stella, mother-in-law left the elevated platform with an icy expression. Seeing this, Leon didn't get angry but just looked at me calmly. "Go change into your evening gown first. We'll be making toasts later." I immediately nodded, then stood on tiptoe and gave Leon a loud, smacking kiss in front of everyone with a beaming smile. "Husband, you were just bursting with boyfriend power earlier. So incredibly handsome. Marrying you is truly my good fortune. Wait for me to come back." I gave Leon a thumbs up. He seemed completely dazed by my kiss. But I couldn't be bothered with his reaction. I simply lifted my skirt hem and stepped down from the stage, heading back to the dressing room with the makeup artist to change into my toast-making outfit. As I passed by the relatives' table at the front, I overheard Adrian whispering to my sister, "Lynn, I'm so glad I'm marrying you. Your sister has such a terrible temper, doesn't she? Leon really got screwed over by his mom, ending up with a shrew for a wife." Hearing Adrian's words, I couldn't help but shoot him a fierce glare. That bastard. If I weren't temperamental, wouldn't I just be waiting to get bullied? It seems no matter if it's my past life or this one, Adrian and I will never get along. But seeing the adoring, grateful look he gave my sister, I held back. Although I'd already openly clashed with my mother-in-law, I wasn't so reckless as to cause a scene during the toast and jeopardize Leon's career. Moreover, since Leon is currently the head of the Montgomery family's conglomerate, no one dared to bring up the tensions between me and my mother-in-law in front of him, sparing him any embarrassment. Thus, the toast segment proceeded smoothly. After seeing off the guests, I finally let out a sigh of relief. Removing my makeup, I collapsed onto the sofa in the hotel's presidential suite. But remembering my sister's mention of how, in her past life, Leon had left to work overtime even before the wedding night was over, I quickly perked up again. No way. If Leon really turns out to be inadequate, then I'd be at a huge disadvantage. I refuse to spend my life in a living widowhood. Tonight, I must test whether Leon is up to the task. So when Leon's phone suddenly rang, I immediately padded barefoot across the carpet to stand before him. Then, with a swift motion, I snatched the phone from his hand and turned it off. Honey, tonight is our wedding night. No matter how important other things are, they can't compare to us spending this romantic evening together, right? I said directly. My slender fingers landed on Leon's chest, then abruptly grabbed his tie. Leon cooperatively lowered his head toward me following the pull. I saw his Adam's apple bob. Then he looked at me with profound intensity in his eyes. My wife is right, I'll do whatever you say. Only then did I hum lightly and kick him with my foot. Go take a shower. Leon raised his eyebrows slightly, then headed toward the bathroom. While Leon was showering, I opened the wardrobe and changed into the sexy battle attire my best friend had gifted me. If Leon could still resist me dressed like this, then it could only mean there was something seriously wrong with him. 20 minutes later, Leon emerged. The moment he saw me, he quickened his pace, then abruptly scooped me up in his arms and carried me toward the bed. As I met his darkened gaze, an inexplicable panic surged through me. Oh my God! Did I take this too far? And indeed, I had. No matter how much I pleaded, Leon showed me no mercy. Exhausted and on the verge of passing out, I seemed to hear Leon's voice with a hint of laughter in my ear. Little wildcat, you're the one who started this fire. When I woke up the next day, it was already noon. Because things had gotten too intense last night, even the slightest movement made my body ache terribly. Leon, that beast. I cursed hoarsely. I had thought Leon was either uninterested in women or incapable, which was why he had neglected my sister so coldly in our previous life. But it turns out that wasn't the case at all. When this guy gets going, he's practically a pile driver, okay? As soon as I finished speaking, a soft chuckle came from beside me. Darling, you were the one who started the fire last night. I turned my head and saw Leon sitting on the leather sofa nearby, reading documents. I instantly froze on the bed, staring at him in disbelief. Why are you still here? Isn't this guy supposed to be a workaholic? Why isn't he at work? Leon stood up and strode toward me. I just got married, shouldn't I take a few days off to accompany my wife? Leon said with a smile. Hungry? Get up and have some breakfast first. Leon said as he reached out to help me sit up, leaning me against the headboard. I stared at him in utter confusion before blurting out, aren't you a workaholic? You actually took time off? Has the sun risen from the west today or something? Is it really that strange for me to take time off? Leon raised an eyebrow. I quickly nodded, of course, but I'm really happy you could specially make time to accompany me. After all, sweet words cost nothing. A smile indeed appeared on Leon's face as he then said to me, don't worry, I'll come home to spend time with you often from now on. Thank you, hubby, you're the best. I smiled sweetly on the surface while silently grumbling inside. This bastard is completely different from what my sister described. Him coming home often would just interfere with me going out for excitement, wouldn't it? After dinner, Leon drove me back to the Montgomery family villa. The moment she saw me, my mother-in-law said sarcastically, oh, so you do remember to come back. I thought you'd long forgotten about this house and me, your mother. Before Leon could speak, I deliberately replied with feigned shyness, mother-in-law, you're overthinking it. Last night was our wedding night after all. As someone who's been through this yourself, isn't it perfectly normal for me to wake up late? Hearing my words, my mother-in-law's expression changed dramatically, her face briefly contorting with emotion. Remembering how Leon's father had passed away early and that she'd raised Leon all these years, my heart sank. Oh heavens! Could it be that she sees me as stealing her son away? Is she jealous of me? At this thought, I couldn't help but glance at Leon with some disdain. Could he possibly have an Oedipus complex too? If that were the case, this man would definitely be a hard pass for me. Fortunately, Leon responded coolly to Mrs. Fu at that moment, Mom, now that I'm married, it's time for me to move out. Lara and I will live in our marital home from now on. Upon hearing this, my mother-in-law's eyes widened in disbelief. Then, with tears welling up, she looked at Leon and said, "Leon, are you leaving your mother?" Watching my mother-in-law's expression, I suddenly felt my stomach churn. My malicious speculation seemed to be true. No wonder in my past life, she had tormented even my sister into depression. In her eyes, my sister was the culprit who stole her son away. How could she ever truly treat her well? Thinking this, I cast a cold glance at my mother-in-law. Mom, Leon is 30 years old now, not some unweaned baby who can't survive without you. Besides, Leon and I just got married. This is exactly the time we need to focus on our life as a couple. Isn't moving out the perfect solution? Mother-in-law immediately glared at me with hatred. Shut your mouth, Lara. Was it you, this vixen, who persuaded Leon to move out? Had I known you were such a master of pretense, I'd never have chosen you as my daughter-in-law in the first place. Before I could retort, Leon spoke up in a low, dangerous tone. Enough, Mom. Lara is my wife. Even if you dislike her, you will show her respect. Moving out was my decision. Is it so wrong to want to live alone with her? My mother-in-law frantically shook her head and reached out to grab Leon's hand, but he deftly avoided her. I immediately stepped forward and tightly grasped Leon's hand, preventing her from touching him. Leon, if you don't live at home, your mother will worry about you. I promise I'll never give Lara a hard time again. Won't you please stay? Mother-in-law pleaded, looking at Leon with imploring eyes. Leon coldly refused. Mom, I've grown up, I'm not a 3-year-old child anymore. Besides, you still have my sister to keep you company. With that, he directly instructed the butler to pack his belongings and send them to our marital home. After giving his orders, Leon took my hand and led me away. Even after getting into the car, I still felt dazed. Had Leon actually defied his mother? At that moment, Leon asked me, "What are you thinking about?" I instinctively replied, "Thinking about what a filial son you are." As soon as the words left my mouth, I quickly covered it, my face full of embarrassment. Leon just gave me a helpless look. "All right, Lynn, stop covering your mouth." Hearing this, my eyes instantly widened. "What did you just call me?" "I'm Lara." Leon looked at me with a scoff, then suddenly reached out to lift my chin. "Did you really think I'd be that easy to fool, unable to tell you apart from Lara?" Seeing him say this, I simply stopped pretending. "When did you find out?" "On our wedding registration day." I was even more surprised. Then why didn't you expose me? After all, the person he originally wanted to marry was my sister. Someone like Leon, how could he be deceived without seeking payback? As if reading my thoughts, Leon suddenly bit my lip hard. "You're so amusing, why would I expose you?" I was momentarily speechless. But I also felt relieved. If a man of Leon's caliber truly wanted revenge, our family wouldn't stand a chance. However, upon returning to the bridal chamber, I realized I'd been too naive. While Leon wouldn't harm my family, he certainly had his ways with me. For 3 consecutive days, I barely left the bed. So much for being a workaholic. Soon arrived the wedding day of my sister and Adrian. At the ceremony, Adrian, a rugged 190 cm tall man, nearly burst into tears before all the guests. "Lynn, meeting you is the greatest fortune of my life. You are my goddess, a blessing from heaven to me. How could someone like me, Adrian, be worthy of marrying such an elegant, gentle, and intelligent goddess? I know I don't deserve you, but I swear to you, I'll be completely devoted to you from now on. I just beg you not to glance at other men." If I hadn't seen it with my own eyes, I could never have believed Adrian had such a sentimental side. When he yells and curses at me, he looks like he wants to twist my head off. My sister, with reddened eyes, nodded heavily in agreement. Only my parents remained seated in the audience, clapping mechanically with expressionless faces. If they still couldn't tell we had swapped identities now, they'd have to be fools. But what could they do? They couldn't exactly stand up and expose us right then. After the wedding, my sister and I were called over by our parents and severely scolded. My sister looked ashamed, her head lowered with tears welling up in her eyes. I quickly held on to Dad's arm. Mom, Dad, isn't this just perfect? You saw it yourselves, Adrian likes gentle girls like my sister, but me? I'm not gentle at all. Even if we got married, we'd definitely become a resentful couple. Mom wiped her tears and said, but what if the Montgomery family finds out about this? Just as she finished speaking, Leon and Adrian pushed the door open and walked in together. Mom, Dad, I've known about the bride swap for a long time. Don't worry, I won't hold it against anyone. Leon firmly held my hand and stood protectively in front of me. At this moment, I felt my heart suddenly start to beat out of rhythm. It seems that ever since we got married, no matter what happened, Leon has always chosen to stand by my side. Oh no. It seems like I'm starting to fall for him. Adrian, on the other hand, held my sister in his arms protectively, his face full of heartache. I don't care, I only recognize my wife. Seeing this, my parents finally had nothing more to say. Leon's extra story. At the age when first love blossoms, I fell for a girl as free as the wind. Though she dressed like a little punk, she would bravely stand up to protect those who were bullied. She lived wild and vibrant, with a whimsical personality that somehow never grated on others. Completely different from my rule-following, stagnant life. I admired her. Yearned for her. But before I could find ways to secretly get closer to her, my father died in a car accident. That year, I was 17. Overnight, our family lost its pillar. My younger sister was still little, and our mother could only weep in the grief of our father's passing, so I had no choice but to work hard to support them. Gradually, I learned to conceal my emotions, to work tirelessly like a machine, desperately earning money. As the company grew larger, my life became even more monotonous, nothing but work, and more work. Until that day, when my mother earnestly urged me to marry and have children. She even mentioned she had already chosen a wife for me. Staring into her stubborn eyes, I coldly nodded in agreement. But I never expected that the wife candidate she found for me would look exactly like the girl I liked. In that moment, I felt all the blood in my body rush backward. Before I could even ask, my mother happily announced her name, praising her gentle and elegant nature as perfect wife material. My heart instantly turned cold. It wasn't her. I knew she had a twin sister. And I also knew their personalities were complete opposites. But the thought of her vibrant, free spirit being trapped by someone as dull as me extinguished that fleeting desire in my heart. I feared so much that I might turn her from a pearl into a fish-eye, causing her to lose herself. What I never expected was that on our wedding registration day, she would be the one who showed up. Even when she deliberately mimicked her sister's docile gentleness, I recognized instantly, she wasn't Lara. At that moment, I desperately suppressed the wild joy in my heart, afraid others might detect my true emotions. I told myself in my heart, Leon, this time, she approached you on her own. My girl, since you chose me yourself, I won't give you a chance to regret it.